this video, I'm going to show you how to hide something. This is the completed project, but we got here from this photo. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to use a couple different tools in Photoshop briefly, and then I'll turn you loose so that you can try using them. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this layer by dragging it down to the trash can, and I'm going to copy my background layer by dragging this down to the new layer button, which will also duplicate that layer. You can also right click and go to duplicate layer if you want to duplicate your original background layer. So I'm doing this for the sole purpose of we are going to completely mess up this picture and destroy its original pixel information. So the best way to do that would be to do it on a new layer and not destroy our entire picture and have to go all the way back and figure stuff out. There's other ways you can use some of these tools where you can put it onto a brand new layer as you paint stuff, and that's really up to you. We'll play around with some of those options when I go more in depth on these individual tools, but for now we're going to start getting rid of this dog. So the first option that we kind of have is this tool right here, which is the Spot Healing Brush tool. And the Spot Healing Brush tool is, again, located right here. If you click on it, you'll see that there's several other options on this tool that can kind of help you out hiding things. So let's see what the Spot Healing Brush does. So if I increase my brush size, it works like a normal brush, so I can use those bracket keys next to the P key to increase and decrease my brush size. I can paint over something, and then we're just going to see how Photoshop can kind of search around the image and then try and cut it out. And that's not that bad. And depending on what you're going to hide, this might actually be your best option because it takes like no time at all. And you know, in our case, there's like shadows and stuff like that that I want to kind of correct. So I'll give you some technique here in a second. But so that's one option. Another option that we have is using the regular healing brush, and the regular healing brush works like this. You need to choose a source point that you want to paint from. So you're going to hold the Alt key or Option, and then you're going to select an area. So I'm going to click over here, I'm going to let go, and then I'm going to move my mouse over to the side of where I want to cover it up, and now it's going to copy from the side there, and you can see a couple crosshairs, and it's going to go ahead and just copy from that location. So then I can let go, and then Photoshop tries to kind of merge what's there and smooth it all out and get it kind of as nice as possible, grab some texture and that kind of stuff. So that's one way that we can also hide some things in Photoshop. Another way would be if we went to the patch tool. So the way the patch tool works, just really quickly, if I select, so I'm going to create a selection. It's kind of like using the lasso tool, so I'm going to go around what I want to copy, and then if I scoot this over, so I'm going to click and drag, then it's going to dump that information in there and then kind of work like how the healing brush did and try and copy that information. Okay, so I can go back here. I'm going to deselect that, so I'm going to go Command D on that. I can go back. There's the Content Aware Move tool, kind of similar to what we just did. So if I go ahead and select the dog here and try and scoot him over there, then it's just going to try and cut him out and move him away. That doesn't really help us in hiding, but it's kind of good to know what that tool does. And then lastly, we're going to go ahead and use this tool down here, which is the Clone Stamp tool. So first I'm going to deselect my selection by doing Command D, and then I'm going to click on the Clone Stamp tool. Now Clone Stamp tool works like how the Healing Brush tool worked, where you need to hold the Alt or Option key, and then you're going to, while you're holding that, you have to click. Then you can move your mouse away, and then again we can start painting. Okay. Now what this does is a little bit more of a direct copy. So this is going to be like if I cut out a section from over here and then pasted it over here, and then you can kind of use different brush types along with it. So if I right click, I can choose to either use like a solid brush. So let's say I go over here, I do Alt click over here, and now I start to paint. You can see I've got that exact section right there. If I wanted to kind of blend it a little bit more, which I'd recommend, I'd go with a softer brush like this guy, and then I can do an Alt click, and then it kind of fades it a little bit more. So if we take a look, you know, now we're starting to fade a little bit more. So I can still copy from over that area, but one of the main problems that you'll start to see when you go to copy over some of these areas, if I start, let's say I grab my source spot from right here, and I move my mouse over, and I'm going to start painting on this paw. And I'm going to start hiding this area, and I keep scooting over. Take a look at where those crosshairs are going. I'm going to start repeating the way that the picture was, and Photoshop's going to remember it as when I first clicked. So I still have that other paw in there even though I erased it here. As soon as you start clicking, Photoshop basically like freezes that image, scoots it over the side, and then starts revealing it. It's kind of how I see it. So I can go back, Command Z, and then we can start working on doing some other options here. So you can see right now, if I go, I'm going to stick with the clone stamp tool for a little bit. So I'm going to, let's zoom in, Command plus, I'm going to use my space bar, scoot over the side a little bit, and I'm going to hold the Alt key, select right here, and then I'm going to start painting. Okay, now something to remember, I like to think about going like side to side because you're considering depth here. So you can see the flowers that are way back here are totally blurred out versus the ones that are up closer are very visible. So if I wanted to take this section from back here and put it up here, it just doesn't look right? It doesn't look like how a lens would react in a picture. So I need to be very careful about the depth of my background and where I'm copying from. I like to think about just going straight to the sides because you have front to back, you'll have like a very similar depth of field, so it shouldn't be an issue. So I can go back over on this side too, and I can start painting. Right, and again, some of those issues are going to pop up where you're going to see some of this stuff. And like the main problem that a lot of people end up with is they just keep painting with one like motion, right? You're copying from one area and you just keep on like trying to copy over, and you end up with like tons of replicated information. And that just isn't good because it's very obvious that that's what you did. So I'm going to go ahead and just like start this over really quick. So we'll take this, and you can do Command J is a quick way to just duplicate a layer or copy something out of a layer. But if I start over here, I'm going to get a little bit bigger of a brush here. I'm going to hold the Alt key, go to my side of my picture, and then we'll start kind of just painting over. And I'm going to try grabbing from like slightly different locations and moving it then like back straight across. So if I go here, paint over some of this stuff, that way I'm not just running over the exact same thing from like every single angle. Okay, so I can go back, we'll grab this spot right here. I'm going to try and get rid of this like little shadow here. This is some good grass right over here that I can do that with, because it'll be obvious when the dog's not there. It'll be kind of weird if there's a shadow there. So I can keep going around. Let's go with this spot over here. Alright, and it's good to just keep looking at what you can do to introduce new source points so that you don't over replicate a certain spot. And I just grab like little bits and pieces as I go and try and just merge all this stuff in here. Okay, then we just, again, we're really trying to avoid having just the same information all over the spot, because as soon as your eye picks up on replicated pieces of a picture, you'll zero in on it and you will not be able to pay attention to anything else. Now, this ends up being a little bit better than what we had over here. Now, I might also want to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take some of this stuff over here and then we'll paint it in down here, so that way it doesn't look like it's the same thing. Just watch out for like certain clusters or things that would look too close to each other to borrow the same information. So we'll try that. That doesn't look so good. Alright, and there you go. I just hid something. Okay, no more dog. If we go back, there he is. There he's not. Okay, obviously not perfect. You can take a little bit more time, clean up some of these other options, but those are great tool options for going ahead and trying to hide something. And really, there's no specific tool that you have to use, but it's good to kind of have all of those at your disposal.